Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning to those of us on the West Coast. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Marissa Snook, and I will be your moderator for today's webinar, which is part of our series on marketing aging care services, and this portion is on what is the right social mix. Okay. See if my screen can go on to the next slide. There we are. I have a couple of other wonderful ladies here with me today. Amy Chilla, who is our marketing and PR specialist, and Leanne, she is our internet marketing specialist. And again, my name is Marissa Snook, and I am the MOST program administrator. And now we come to the topic of today's webinar. What is social media and why use it in marketing? And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Leanne and Amy.
All right. If you want to go ahead and go on to that next slide, Marissa, I'll get into our objectives for today. Welcome, everyone. This is Leanne, by the way, just in case you don't know our voices. I'm going to talk to you about our social media objectives. First off, an important thing we're going to discuss is discovering reasons to use social media in the aging care marketing mix. So why should you be incorporating social media into your marketing? How is it going to benefit you? And you know, ways that you're going to be using social media as an aging care business. Also, we're going to learn about the various social media platforms and what works best. We're going to talk about primarily the big dogs, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Google+, and also blogging, because those are the ones that are still, you know, the primary social media platforms. There are tons more out there, but we're going to focus on the ones that get the best results today. And then we're going to discuss the different ways that you measure for results from your social media efforts. So why do we care about social marketing? Despite that it's hugely popular right now in the marketing world, it's also a very powerful marketing tool. It's a way to interact, collaborate on an immediate level with your client base and with, you know, clients that haven't even heard about your business before. So you're really getting a way to extend your reach to people that you may not have been able to reach through other means. It's 24/7. It's not some billboard on the side of the road that someone sees and then passes by and never sees again. It's a way that, you know, people can have access to information about your company 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you're putting your presence out there where so many people are searching for information. There is just, you know, social media is growing every day in terms of population, so you're really getting a better bang for your buck because you're out there in front of so many eyes. And you have a unique ability with social media to pursue your clients, persuade them, and to keep in touch with them. You're really able to, you know, discuss your products and services in a unique way and have a conversation with your audience. So that's just a really unique thing about social marketing that other parts of or other marketing tools just don't possess. So we can go on to the next one. Another hugely important thing about social media is the SEO benefits that you're going to be getting by being active on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Pinterest, etc. Your brand extension and the reinforcement of quality when people are searching for care. By being active on social media, you're really just extending your content and, you know, impressing upon people that you are a professional in your industry, and you're creating engagement from the posts, the statuses that you post and online. You're just really creating an engaging way to speak to your target audience. Using social media in aging care. So who is searching social media? It's clients and families. They're looking for information, resources, services. when you have a family member in need of care. Social media is just a great extra way to research a company, to get kind of a personal feel for that company. And so using social media to put out more information about your resources and your services is a great way to interact with potential clients. Finding, communicating, and acting on information. Customer service is another great way that the businesses use social media. You can really interact with your customers. If they have a problem, it's an instant way that you can discuss it with them and really just show the world that you are on top of things, that you care about your clients, and that you're willing to make things right if something's wrong. Vendors and families, like I said, are vetting businesses, and this is just another way to kind of get a personal feel. You're going to be putting, images up there of your caregivers, perhaps, and it's just a great way to get a personal feel for a company. Potential caregivers finding jobs. We'll talk about LinkedIn later on, but LinkedIn is a big way that as a social network where people go to look for new careers, and so it's a great way to find and hire quality caregivers. And referral sources are also going to be doing research on you to determine whether or not you're the best business to refer their clients to. So social media is just great for all of those aspects of aging care. And so we're going to jump into what social media is recommended. And Amy, was this one going to you?
Yes.
All right.
So hello, everyone. This is Amy. Thanks, Leanne. That was a great introduction. And so we're going to sort of jump into what I call the nitty-gritty at this point. How much time do we spend a week, and what is the right mix for the different platforms and social media? So this is typically where we hear the collective groan of how much time do we have to actually spend doing this? Because as busy business owners and running day-to-day operations, time is not necessarily something that is a luxury for us that we have extra of, but it is that important to try to make the time for it. So if you sort of pre-decide ahead of time what you need to allocate, then it's more likely to happen. I even personally go so far as to throw it into my schedule as a to-do every day. So I make sure I have that time on there. So specifically, how much time per week? Well, it's logical that you think the more posts I make, the more engagement I'm going to receive, the better results I'm going to get. If you aren't throwing anything out into the social media universe, you are going to get nothing back. So we like to say if you spend, on average, an hour per day, 5 hours per week communicating. So that doesn't necessarily work really well to do 5 hours in a lump sum. I mean, if that's the best you can do, then that's okay, but that's probably not going to happen, because when are you actually going to get 5 consecutive hours to spend on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn? It's not going to happen. I think the best breakdown is 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes somewhere near the end of the day, or if you can't do that, then maybe 30 minutes in the middle of your day. That's a much more manageable block of time. And as far as sort of helping you do this, we like to recommend platforms such as Hootsuite and TweetDeck. Those can help you manage your posting time, because you can schedule things out for the week. And it also gives you really quick one-click access to some of those conversations that happen that we'll talk about a little bit later. What should you be doing during those hours that you're spending on the social media? Twitter, specifically doing some keyword tweets, looking at some influencer tweets, responding to conversations if people have talked about things for you, and retweeting other people's content. On Facebook, there is a feature where you can use as the page, so you're not using as a person, you're using yourself as that page, so you're communicating in your company's voice. Spend some time liking pages, other people's pages that your audience would actually be interested in. Make sure if you see some valuable content on somebody else's page that you think your audience would be interested, share that content on your page. Then if you also see things that you can comment on where your potential customers and audience might be visiting, do that, because then your company name will show up in the comments section. Specifically on LinkedIn, we always recommend that you join groups. Industry groups are wonderful for referral networking, and also perhaps there are some groups where your potential customers and clients and audience might live that you can join into. Start discussions within those groups, and make sure that you like status updates again. So the more visibility you can make as a company, the better. So sorry, that was a lot of information in that initial bullet, but there's a lot of good nuggets out there to tell you about. When you consider your audience of what platform to spend most time on, think about your number of users, so your reach. How many people are you going to reach? What audience will give you the most touches? And then emphasize that. Spend your time where you are going to get the most reach. Ask yourself, how will I reach the most people? And what are they interested in? And then provide that content. And then, again, the last bullet is very logical, use it or lose it. If you have the accounts but you're not doing anything with them, you are not going to get any results. So we want to make sure we're very active. So the next thing we put in here was the blog is a must-have. People don't typically think of the blog as social media, but it is a huge contributor in the social media world. Why? Because it's a great tool for use for content creation in social media. So say you do a blog post, you have then something instantly that you can tweet, that you can post on Facebook, that you can post on a status update on LinkedIn that will bring people back to your website. Then additionally, we talk about Leanne touched on the SEO validity in having social media content. Well, it's the same for the blog. Google loves when your site is current. Google loves to see you have backlinks to your website. So if you're tweeting things out about your blog post or you're posting on Facebook and LinkedIn, Google will actually see that. They spider associated social media content and accounts with your organic ranking. So that's going to help push you up in Google toward that #1 ranking. And then it also gives you natural backlinks to your own website as well as when others repost your content. And then that's sort of the technical side of it. And then there's also what I call sort of the touchy-feely side of social media, which is the relationship building. That's really what social media is all about. You're trying to build relationships with your customers and prospects. And a great way to do that, again, is by being an expert through your blog posting. So you're touching customers and prospects. You're touching other bloggers, and then they're in turn talking about your information, which gives you inbound links to your website and helps build that and foster those relationships, keeping you top of mind when they either go to make a referral, if they're a referral marketer, or if they're a family or a friend, they will remember, oh, I read that really useful article on XYZ company, and make a referral to you that way. So next slide. So where should you spend your time? We call these the social media top dogs. And probably most of these are very familiar to all of you. We try to put them a little bit here in rank order. This won't necessarily apply for every company or agency, but it will be pretty effective across the board. We think Facebook, from a family client, potential client perspective, and say, for instance, with home care agencies, this is a really powerful place to be on Facebook. LinkedIn is really powerful for sort of the B2B play. So if you're a vendor in the aging care services area and you're looking for some business-to-business aspects, LinkedIn is really great. But then it's also good for referral marketing with those trusted referrals like attorneys, estate planners, and those kinds of things on LinkedIn. Twitter is wonderful because it's really instant communication. It's, to me, the most instant back and forth that we have in the social media world, and it also is really highly valued by Google, the search engines. Then we have Google+, which is I say it hasn't really necessarily taken off in terms of relationship building, but what it does do is it really enhances your SEO. So if you're spending the time to create content for all these other platforms, it's one of those things, why wouldn't you put it on Google+? Because it only is going to help you bump up in SEO. Then Pinterest is, as a lot of you know, very visual. So it's also another one that we think is really good for marketing to families of the elderly. And then this is not necessarily social media, but really important, making yourself available on review sites like Caring.com and Yelp, and soliciting for those reviews, because getting those reviews, people read them, and the more positive reviews you have, the more likely you are to appear like a great company in other people's eyes, and they're more likely to select somebody with reviews than somebody without reviews. So let's get into a little bit more detail here. Facebook, what should I post? And we will say photos, 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 photos. People are very visual. We know that. So how can you most personalize your company? Well, that would be through photos. What kinds of photos would be good? Things of your team, your staff, if you have groups or things that you do within the community, those photo opportunities are great. We always like to say if you can do something humorous, that's great too. I've seen some people write on paper once a week some sort of like a slogan or something funny, and then they take a picture of it, and then that's, a photo. So it doesn't have to necessarily be of people. It can be of inanimate objects as well, if you have funny ideas. And then interactions with either clients or customers. If you're in the home care agency business, though, you want to make sure you get photo releases. That's just a little aside. And then other events, if you're doing things within your company, that's a great thing to do. Videos, that can be a little challenging sometimes. They're very important. Again, a nice visual tool, but sometimes you're sort of left going, well, what in the world am I going to video? We're a company. We're not, something. The day-to-day isn't necessarily that exciting. I always suggest try video blogging. So if you write up something instead of necessarily putting it on pen to paper per se, virtually, try doing a video of you talking about the topic instead. That also really humanizes and personalizes your company. And then we also say if you have caregivers, if you're a home care agency and you have caregivers that are willing to give interviews, sort of about why they love what they do, why they love working for your particular agency, why they love working with the elderly, those are also wonderful tools to humanize. And then sometimes I've even seen agencies, we worked with one that went through and got permission from client families and actually had some interviews with families that were working with the company. So that's also a wonderful thing to have. Sort of less visual things to put on Facebook, but just as important, if you see industry-related news, your own company news. So if you hire a new caregiver or you hire a new staff member, give a quick profile on them if they're willing, show a photo. Then if you're releasing new product or service information, also a great place to put it on Facebook. We always say try to establish a voice, show your company's personality. So if you have a corporate culture that's, a little more relaxed, have your speak be in that more relaxed tone. If you are trying to establish a very warm feeling, a sort of a family feeling, use words and a voice that will relay that to your audience. So it's a way to establish part of your brand personality. I touched on this a little bit ago, but yes, employee photo is a wonderful way to personalize your business. Event photos, and then if you see funny images here and there, because I know we all do, whether that's in your Facebook feed or other social media platforms, just post those. It's also funny, sharing content. So here we have a visual of a Facebook timeline, and we've pointed out here sort of what we mean by sharing things. So this was a Facebook timeline, a Visiting Angels page, and they found an article that they shared, and it wasn't theirs, but it was useful information for their audience. So it's about eyesight. So definitely something that, if you see things that you know your audience is going to be interested in, share it. And then the other thing, the feature that people don't really use, but was awesome, especially for the aging care services market, is recommendations. It's almost like a Yelp within your Facebook page. So you can ask people for reviews and recommendations, and there's a place over here to the right on your timeline that allows for people to do that and allows for the audience to see that. So it's again, like I always call it Yelp for Facebook. So definitely utilize that feature. So now we're going to transition into LinkedIn and why we love it. Again, wonderful tool for referral marketing and networking. We call this the social networking site. Well, they call that for professionals. It's a place where you can use to recruit new hires. It's another place for somebody to research your company, but typically, again, it's more of a B2B play there. And it's another place for you to interact with other industry professionals. So as we know, competition can live different places, and to see what other people are doing, and then also in a friendly way share resources and ideas with each other. So the next slide, there we go. So what should you post on LinkedIn? I want to back up a little bit and say there's basically two things you have to have on LinkedIn, in my opinion, and then another that is an option just depending on what's appropriate. So obviously if you join LinkedIn, you have a personal profile as you as an individual. So that's very important to make sure it's populated well, you have a lot of information, and that it shows as fairly active. Then as a company, you absolutely must start a company page. Again, this is something that a lot of people overlook for some reason, but it can be extremely valuable. Because if people don't know you as an individual, they'll still be able to find your company. And then the third thing, which is optional, is to create a group. But I say unless you're going to start something that's pretty unique within your industry, it may or may not be worth it for you to actually create a group. It might be more valuable to join other groups. So those are my must-haves on LinkedIn. Actually, we're going to go back, Marissa. I'm not done quite with LinkedIn yet. So what do you want to do as an individual? You want to make connections with like-minded people in your industry or potential connections that could give you marketing referrals. And then you also want to try as a company to gain followers and increase that because they will see all your status updates. So posting, what should you do? Link to your blog posts, and if you have any job openings, great place to do it. You can also open up a jobs feature tab on LinkedIn. If you have any company awards or recognitions, wonderful. If you, on the actual company page, it now allows you, they have some new sections that allow you to post more information on your products and services specifically. And then, as I mentioned a little bit before, make sure you join industry-related groups and become very active within those groups. Not in a salesy, spammy, here's my product, buy my stuff way, but actual thoughtful discussions about relative topics in the industry. So now we can move on to the next slide. Okay, so Twitter. I get a lot of questions from people. Do I really have to do it? Is it really necessary? Yes. Twitter is extremely conversational. As I said before, to me, it's sort of the most interactive in an immediate way of all the social media platforms because it is just really based around conversation. Is it necessary? Yes. Again, it boosts your overall SEO, and then it lends itself to being able to touch people that you wouldn't necessarily be able to touch. LinkedIn, Facebook, you all have to be connected in a way to be able to talk. Twitter, you don't have to necessarily be connected. You can really reach out to anybody and start a conversation. You just have to be able to find them. So what I always remind people with Twitter, though, is not just about throwing out content into the universe. You need to be able to converse. So don't throw something out there, walk away, and check it a week later. Make sure you look for people trying to have conversations with you. Next slide. So how do you build a following? I always say that there's sort of a 2-to-1 ratio rule. So if you go out there and follow 2 people, in theory, usually one of those 2 people will follow you back. So that's kind of where you want to keep it. You don't want to go out and follow 100 people and have one person follow you back, because you're not targeting the correct people at that point. A great way to find people is to target followers of your competitors. And that's usually in business practices. That's what we do to try also to get new clients. So this is a great way to also do it on Twitter. Do keyword searches to find people. I know we recommend hashtags a lot. So there's a hashtag aging care, or hashtag home care, or hashtag. It's basically you put any sort of key phrase you think people would be looking for services, you put a hashtag in front of it, and that helps you search for anybody who's mentioned anything with that hashtag in there. So those are people. So if somebody's talking about hashtag home care, well, all the people that mention that and have that hashtag in their tweet, you will be able to find. And then you follow all of them, and then hopefully some of them will follow you back. And then, again, the SEO aspect of it. Make sure when you're writing your actual tweets that you are putting in some of those keywords that you know will help you out. So say you're a home care agency in Omaha, Nebraska. Say something about Omaha in your tweet, because then it's going to be more locally found to those people who are going to actually use you in that area. And then, again, don't forget about your referral sources. And especially if you're a vendor in the industry, you know, those are the people who are going to refer to you. So look for people who might potentially refer you business and follow them as well. So what kind of content should I put on Twitter? Not too dissimilar from a lot of the other platforms, but again, it's more real-time than some of the others because people are monitoring it in that way. So if you're at an event, it's a great thing to do to actually tweet from the event about things you're seeing or doing. And then we mentioned if there's people within your industry, within the aging care services market, that are considered influencers. So maybe some of your association presidents, or you know, locally, if there's some clubs or associations that are really popular that you know people watch, repost those people's tweets, because then you'll probably gain some more followers that way. And it also makes you look like you know what's going on in your industry, in your area. Then also always remember what will your audience find useful, and you know, send that out. One thing we like to make sure to remind people of is that Twitter is also visual in the sense that you can post photos and videos there, and that's becoming more, it's getting more weight in the Twitter universe. Again, if you're writing a blog, link to your blog posts, and I will say it over and over again, please converse. So when people comment on your information, have the discussion with them. I see so many people on Twitter actually talking about things, and then there's just silence, like crickets in the background. Nobody ever responds. So this next slide that we have up here is, yes, Twitter is visual too. So they've even gone so far on the layout of Twitter now to show your images and your videos. So it's kind of, if you have content to put there, it looks great. And again, SEO, it really helps. And now I'm going to hand it back over to Leanne, who's going to talk a little bit about Google+.
All right. Thanks, Amy. And I just want to comment, Amy just gave you a ton of super helpful information. We're talking a lot about SEO in this because SEO is huge in social media. So if you're having trouble following any of our SEO terms, we do have several blogs up on the Core Cubed website right now that kind of break down what search engine optimization is, and some of the terms that go along with it, and how to best get the most out of your SEO. So if you're having trouble following anything that we're talking about here in terms of SEO, definitely go over to our blog on CoreCube.com and check it out. So Google+. As Amy mentioned before when we started out talking about all of these different social media platforms, she's right, Google Plus has not necessarily gained a ton of followers, a ton of people who are really excited about it in the way that Facebook and Twitter have. But it is Google's social media network, and you cannot ignore Google in this day and age. It's huge, and Google's going to do whatever it can to help Google. So Google Plus results are integrated into a Google search in a way that other social media sites like Facebook and Twitter aren't. Google is going to pick up, your Facebook and Twitter posts, but it's going to prioritize your Google Plus posts before any of that because Google is all about Google. So definitely, if you're posting on other social media networks, you should absolutely go ahead and post on Google Plus as well because your SEO is just going to go. It's only going to be helped by being on Google Plus. And it's just another way to another place to visually display your brand. Much like Facebook, Google Plus is hugely visual. You can post videos, photos, your banner images on your profile are even bigger and better now on Google Plus. So it's just another great way to get your brand visually out there. And then what should you post on Google Plus? You can post just about anything that you're posting on the other sites, your blogs, product information, service information, news, photos, videos, and keywords. The great thing about all of these social media platforms is that they integrate so well with one another that anything that you share on one, you can pretty much share on the other, and you should share on all of them because that just gets your, it just extends your reach. It gets your SEO keywords out there. But something that you should really remember on Google Plus, like I said, remember what you're posting should contain some keywords. Obviously, you're not going to post, all of your posts with, loaded down with your keywords, but you do want to be cognizant of, using those keywords in your posts on Google Plus, especially because Google is going to really prioritize those. And now we're going to jump over to Pinterest. Pinterest is a highly visual social bookmarking site, and a social bookmarking site, if you haven't been on Pinterest, is just a place. It's like a pin board. It's like having a cork board that you're putting up images of things you like, things you want to explore more later. It's just a great way to post any of your visual aspects of your company. Users create boards and they pin those items of interest to their boards, and a pinned item will link back to the site from which they were pinned. So if you have a great brochure, a visual brochure on your website, or if you have an image of a product on your website, someone can pin that to Pinterest, and then anyone who clicks on that image, it'll link right back to your site. So that's going to get you web traffic. It's going to get people talking about your products, services, and all of that. So it's a great place to post your visual content. What we like to do with our clients is use Pinterest to showcase team, services, products, linking viewers back to your blog. So you really want to think about when you're writing a blog, creating a visual or using a visual in your blog so that it is pin-worthy, because you really can't pin just a page full of text. You really need a visual to be able to pin on Pinterest. So, consider using visual items that are interesting, that people want, to pin on their pin boards, in your blogs or on your web pages. You can also share industry-related articles that also have images that go along with them. You can really create all kinds of boards. A lot of our clients that use Pinterest use their resource pages that have images on them to pin up a resource page, say, about Alzheimer's care. And that's just a great way to, get that information out there, say, hey, we are an industry resource on Alzheimer's care, come check us out. And it's don't always have to pin just strictly business-related things. You can really show off your company's personality, just like you're doing on Facebook and Google Plus and Twitter. You can post images of your caregivers having fun, a company party, anything like that is a great way to just get your company persona out there on Pinterest. All right, and now we've gone through all of our main social media platforms, so we're going to get into how do you measure for effectiveness and reach. And Amy's going to talk a little bit about Google Analytics for us.
Okay, so how, after you've done all of this, one of the big questions in anything you do in business and marketing, you need to determine a level of ROI. So what is your return on investment in this? Social media to date has been a little bit challenging because there's no one thing you can watch or calculate to say, gosh, this actually has turned into sales for me, because social media was not created as a sales tool. It was created as a relationship building tool. So there's not always a direct result that you can calculate. However, there's a group of things you can do that will give you a picture of what your social media ROI is. There's a lot of different pieces. The first of that is your Google Analytics report. And we are hoping and crossing our fingers that everybody who has a website has Google Analytics installed on there. That's just a code you put in your website. It's free, and it's something that then Google actually tracks different things such as traffic, as interaction, as visitors, etc., on your website, and you get these handy reports. So where can you look within Google Analytics to find details about social media? I always say the best place in Google Analytics is the Traffic Sources Overview tab. And what it will do is tell you what percentage of your inbound traffic onto your website is from the different social media sites. So you'll see something, for your Facebook traffic, your LinkedIn traffic, your Twitter traffic, etc. It will give you an idea of people are clicking through to things on your site from your social media posts. Now, one cautionary thing I like to say is, remember, this isn't going to give you the entire picture because not every social media post you make is necessarily going to have a link back to your site, especially if you're reposting other people's content or you're just making some statement to the universe without having a link back to your site. So remember that when you're looking at your Google Analytics, but it's still a really valuable thing to take a look at. Then the other thing within Google Analytics, so that next slide talks about our social relationship report. This is a relatively new feature within Google Analytics, and what it does is it's sort of taken that need of there isn't one particular thing to talk about the social ROI, but what they're trying to do here is establish sort of what your social relationship is. So it calibrates specific goals that you actually create and set into what they call conversions, which is another measurement you can use to gauge success. So basically a conversion is an action that your user is taking on your website, which is stemmed from something that happened on social media. So let's go to the next slide, and I'll try to explain that in a little more detail. So you'll see here there's an image, and this is a screenshot of how when you set up your social relationship report, you're actually going through, and you as a company are creating what you consider to be goals. So your goals can be a URL destination, so a page destination on your website. It can be a visit duration, so how long somebody spends on a particular page, how many pages per visit they look at, or even a specific event which you create. That can be anything. So once you determine those goals, so those are the things that you consider to be a positive effect from social media. So, for instance, maybe you send out a tweet that says, you want more information on our services, click here, and it goes to a contact us form on your website. Somebody actually goes there and fills that out. That's triggered as a conversion, and so that's considered a positive interaction, which will then get tagged in your social relationship report. So each goal has a URL on your website linked to it. So again, for instance, if you had people come through and read a blog post or went to a contact form or downloaded something, that would be a conversion. So what happens is then you have all these calculated conversions, which then get put into the social relationship report, and it breaks down per platform, so per Facebook, per Twitter, per LinkedIn, and all the others on down the chain. So we recommend you really set this up. There is some time and thought put into it on the front end, but it's probably going to be one of your most detailed analytics reports. Then make sure you change things as maybe you have seasonal, maybe you have cyclical events happening in your business, so change it accordingly. And make sure you look at this as part of your monthly activities and then adjust. Leanne said make sure you're adjusting and doing more of what's working. So if you see that your people are clicking through mostly on your blog posts and following you that way, then maybe you do more blog posting. So just it's tracking trends and doing more of what works. And then now I'm going to hand it back over to Leanne, who's going to talk about Hootsuite.
All right, thanks, Amy. So we talked a little bit about Hootsuite when we were going over the beginning of the webinar and what you should be posting and how much time you should be spending. If you don't know about Hootsuite, it is a place that you can schedule out all of your social media posts across Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. You can't really do Pinterest pins on it, but for the most part, you can schedule a lot of your blocks of posts out in this one place so that you're not constantly switching back and forth between Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook to make your posts. So if you're using Hootsuite and you're posting on Hootsuite, then it's got a great place to get a detailed overview of your social media posts and what's going on in your statistics. So what you're seeing here in this little screenshot is just an overview of how your summary of your stats and how they're doing, some of your top referral sources over there. You get some demographic data, who's coming to you, who's clicking on you from where, and then you can see who's mentioning you, and just a really good overview of how some of these posts are doing that you're posting on Hootsuite. And so we're going to break it down in the next slides to show you. So this is for Twitter, and what the analytics on Hootsuite are going to show you about your tweets. They're going to show you a list how your retweets are doing, who's retweeting you, or how many you're getting. Users sharing your information on Twitter, how your reach is going, and so this graph here is your total retweets, and that's whenever you tweet something, if someone picks it up and says, oh, that's great information, I want to tweet this too, they're going to retweet what you just tweeted. So that graph is just showing how well retweets are doing, and mentions by influencers. So you're getting a lot of great information from the Hootsuite Twitter analytics. And we can talk about LinkedIn analytics on Hootsuite. This is a little snapshot that you can see your total followers on LinkedIn, any new followers that you've gotten. It shows your percentage up or down. Impressions, and impressions are just who is seeing your posts, not necessarily who's clicking on them, but who, if your post is getting in front of how many eyes out there on LinkedIn. So that's going to show you your impressions and your engagement, and that's going to be people who are clicking, who are actively doing something with your LinkedIn posts. So you're going to get all of that information on your Hootsuite analytics for LinkedIn. And Amy, you want to talk a little bit more about LinkedIn analytics on LinkedIn itself?
Sure. So you can get limited information through Hootsuite, but if you really want to dive into specifically your company page and or your personal profile, you're really going to want to go onto LinkedIn itself. Basically, if you go onto your company page within LinkedIn, at the top right, you'll see a link to something called Insights, and that's where you'll find your follower insights. So, for example, who, how many, what interactions you're getting, as well as page views and demographic information. So we pulled up a little screenshot there in front of you of what that looks like, and that's Insights for Page again. And why do you care about this? Well, it's important so you can see who is interacting with you. Again, doing more of what's working. So if you're knowing who is actually watching you and interacting with you, you can tailor your content according to their interests. So the more followers you get, for instance, on a company page, the more interactions you are getting, again, with people you're not necessarily connected to on an individual level, and the more likely you are to stay top of mind for those really important referrals. The other thing I like to talk about on LinkedIn, we get a lot of questions on premium versus a regular account. LinkedIn offers a premium level, which is a fee-based. I believe it's there's different levels, but it can be as cheap as, I think, $39 a month for a premium. And if you're a very heavy user, and again, if you're more of a business-to-business play, premium level might be really good for you because it gives you more insight data, especially on an individual profile. So it allows you to see who views your profile, gives you, even if you're not connected, and then it gives you more data on interaction. So we recommend that you maybe upgrade to premium if you are a really heavy LinkedIn user. And then Leanne, you'd like to talk a little bit about our Pinterest analytics. You'd like to talk a little bit about our Pinterest analytics.
Yes, this is a very, very new feature on Pinterest. They've just added their analytics feature. So if you're on Pinterest analytics as a company, there are just a few steps you need to take in order to set up these analytics on your Pinterest company page, and they've got great information on Pinterest to walk you right through it. Basically, you just need to put a little line of code in your website so that Pinterest can see, yes, you are who you say you are, and they can read that off of your website, and then they will set up your analytics for you. This is just one little graph of information that you get from Pinterest Analytics. There are a couple other things that their analytics tells you. This graph is showing you impressions, so how many people are seeing the pins that you're pinning on Pinterest, and your reach, and how well are your pins doing in getting out there to the public. You can also see, and I didn't pull a graph for it, but you can see how many clicks you're getting, how many likes you're getting. You can see most liked pins. So if you pin something and several people, like it, you're going to see, oh, they like this pin about my resources. They don't necessarily care about this pin about, our, product. So you want to do more of what works. So maybe you want to pin more resources because you know that those are getting more likes and more shares, which are repins. So you can also get a sense of who's repinning what, and kind of gather that information to let you know how you're doing on Pinterest, what people are really paying attention to on your Pinterest page, and what you can do more of. All right, and we're going to open it up for some Q&A.
Thank you so much, Leanne and Amy. So if anyone has any questions, please type them into the box on the far right of your screen. I have another question. How do I look at Google Analytics for my website?
Well, you have to have it installed on your website. So basically, if you go to, I believe it's analytics.google.com. I think that's what the URL is. You set up an account there, and then they give you a specific code that just gets embedded on every page in your website. And if you have a webmaster in-house, they can do that really easily. We also at CoreCubed have people that can do that for you. And then once that's done, those reports start just automatically creating themselves. So then you just log into your Google Analytics account every month or every week or however often you want to look at it, and those reports are all there for you running in real time. So you don't really have to do anything with it after the initial placement of the code on your website and setting up with the account.
Another question, do photo releases for social media have to be obtained for every photo for every person?
No, they do not. I would say that as a general rule, if you're going to be putting employee photos, you either get an individual release or you have a release that is signed one time. It just says universally they're agreeing to allow photos of themselves on different social media platforms. When you really want to do the photo releases is if you're again a home care agency and you're dealing with any photos of clients and or families of clients, because people, there's no HIPAA necessarily around home care, but there is, there's some privacy issues, and people may not want to have their photos known or out there in the universe. So that is a place where you absolutely are going to want to get photo releases. But for every photo that you put up, no. And it's just use your judgment. That's usually a good call. And then if you're reposting somebody else's, you either need to give them credit. So if you're sharing something, automatically you're giving them credit because it'll say who it's being shared by on Facebook. But you don't want to just copy and call it your own. So you want to give credit to somebody else if it's somebody else's photo.
And one last question, what are some other sites that the elderly or family may visit besides caring.com? I can input on that one. There are several, increasingly more websites are growing out there that have a directory listing feature where someone who's looking for aging care services can input the information that they're looking for, and it will spit back a list of people who have paid to be listed on that website. Caring.com is one of the larger ones, but as I mentioned, there are several other out there. You could probably just do a search for home care directory listing sites, and several would spit back at you. And that's all the questions that we have, and we are out of time for today. If you do think of any questions after the webinar, here is our email address, info@corecubes.com, or feel free to give us a call, 800-370-6580, extension 1. And here are some more of our social media. We'd love to engage with you on our social media accounts. And of course, our website is corecubes.com. Thank you so much for attending today. Thank you very much, Amy, and thank you very much, Leanne, for a wonderful presentation. And we hope everyone goes out there and gets social.